Hello again. Welcome to part number 4 of our series of conversations with former principal Mrs. Melanie Kemp. We are so excited to bring this episode to you today. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." And as we've seen over the course of this series, the Summit Christian School of the Future was set in the foundations that were laid over the past 40 years. We're excited to hear what Mrs. Kemp has to say about the years to come for Summit Christian School.
I remember the motto I had when we were here, that it was academic excellence on a biblical foundation. That's sort of old-fashioned. I like the motto that I saw you all chose: dream vividly, learn courageously, live boldly for Christ. I think that's a good future and a good motto. Academic excellence, to me, always meant there should be a strong teaching about reading, math, science, history, technology. You don't replace that. That should be strongly taught, but it should be fun. It should appeal to those who are visual learners, those who are hands-on learners, those who learn by listening, auditory skills. And it should be creative. So have those experiments, have those field trips, simulations. I was pretty ornery sometimes in the way I pretended to be to instigate a class. And do that all, but make that academics foundation really strong. And then the biblical foundation. God speaks to us when we read the Bible. Read the Bible to the students. Encourage them to read the Bible. We learn of His loving character, His unselfish love for us. His hesed, I think, is the Hebrew word. His never-ending love. And we learn about His character and His principles that bring joy to our living. And then in prayer, keep that a focus. We communicate our thanksgiving, our adoration of the Lord, and yes, our needs. I heard of a kindergarten little girl who was asked if she prayed every night. And her reply was, "No, some nights I don't want anything." But that's a lesson for us. Because God's desire is that we walk with Him as He walked with Adam and Eve in the garden and had fellowship. And that begins in our prayer life with Him. So through the foundations that I would desire for Summit Christian School, those academics and those biblical foundations, I would want kids to learn that even before the foundation of the world began, God knew us. That's amazing. Before time began, God knew us individually. And His love for us is always about an opportunity to be saved from our own sinful, selfish ways through Jesus Christ. The first offer of salvation was actually founded in Genesis 3:15. After the fall of man, after the first sin in the garden, after sin, there was salvation offered. And in the last book of Revelation, we learn that we will live forever. And the only question is, where do we choose to live? With the Lord in His presence forevermore, where there'll be no more tears and no more sorrows? Or do we want to live in utter darkness separated from Him? That's the choice that's left. I'd like to share a couple quotes from a book, Be Basic, The Basics of Christianity by a pastor, Warren Wiersbe. that relate to education. The first quote is from a Nobel Prize winner, Robert Millikan, an American physicist, who said, "I consider an intimate knowledge of the Bible an indispensable qualification of being a well-educated person." And the second is from, of all sources, a professor at Yale University by the name of William Lyons Phelps. And he agreed when he said, "Anyone who has a thorough knowledge of the Bible may truly be called an educated person. And I believe knowledge of the Bible without a college course is more valuable than a college course without a Bible."
Thank you so much for joining us for our series of conversations with former principal Mrs. Melanie Kemp. We are so excited for everything that the Lord is doing here at Summit Christian School. And when we talk about the future, I am actually here surrounded by a number of our class of 2031 students. That seems so far away. But everything that has happened over the 40 years of the history of our school has prepared us to give these guys a great education where they can dream vividly, learn courageously, and live boldly for Christ. Again, I'm Brian Stock, and we are so grateful that you were able to join us. We'll see you soon. Bye. Bye.